Greetings. Welcome to So Much to Talk About. My name is Nabaté Isles, and it's always a pleasure to share facts and viewpoints on the world of sports. And before I introduce this wonderful individual that I will have the honor to speak with, make sure to check out past episodes of So Much to Talk About on my YouTube channel, NSI World. That's N as in no, S as in Sam, I as in Indigo World, to hear and see past interviews and analysis on the show. And it's been an honor just to speak with a lot of incredible individuals in the world of sports and entertainment throughout the years. So now I'm introducing this illustrious individual that I'll be talking with. He has covered the National Football League for 35 years, and he's been the NFL columnist for Newsday for the past 30 years, so almost 30 years. Just a great career, and twice voted New York State Sportswriter of the Year by the National Sports Media Association, and he is currently the president of the prestigious Pro Football Writers of America organization, and he's authored the book Guts and Genius, the story of three unlikely coaches who came to dominate the NFL in the 1980s. And those coaches were Bill Walsh, Joe Gibbs, and Bill Parcells. And on September 21st, Tuesday, September 21st, his new book, co-written with Keyshawn Johnson, former Pro Bowler and Super Bowl champion, and also ESPN personality, they co-wrote a book called The Forgotten First. Kenny Washington, Woody Strode, Marion Motley, Bill Willis, and the breaking of the NFL color barrier. So there's a lot of history to be discussed during this interview, and a lot of history in that book that you all must read, which will be released on September 21st. It is my pleasure to present one of the great writers in America, Mr. Bob Glauber, on So Much to Talk About. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you very, very much for having me. Appreciate that. I don't know who it is you were talking about earlier, but I appreciate the kind words.
No, you know who it is, and we know who it is. You've definitely been such a pillar when it comes to excellence in writing and covering pro football for sure.
I appreciate it.
Sport that we all know and love. So now, wow, talk about your book with Keyshawn Johnson. Partnering up together. Share the history of the groundbreaking individuals that you cover that broke the color barrier, and talk about your history with Keyshawn Johnson, because he was a Jet as a rookie in 1996. So talk about how you two have developed that trust and friendship.
Yeah, and do we have 2 hours? and here it is.
Oh,
well, we are so happy to put this book out. Now, I've known Keyshawn since 1996. Mm-hmm. I met him on the Circle Line boat ride before the draft. They brought the players out, and we went on a ride around Manhattan, and we were introduced, and I'm telling you, immediately I was like, wow, this guy has got charisma, pizzazz. I just hope the Jets take him, and he's going to be great to cover. They did. He has been great to cover. So I've known Keyshawn for 25 years. Wow. And when this idea came about, we spoke last summer, and I ran it by him. I gave him a little quiz, and I'll give you that quiz. Well, you know the answer to it, so I won't. But I mean, the bottom line is everybody knows that Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in baseball.
Right.
And I, as a football writer, was in a locker room a couple of years ago saying, I don't know the story of integration in the NFL. I just don't know it. Like, wow. Who is the first Black player in the modern NFL? I did not know. So Keyshawn and I had that discussion. I go, Keyshawn, it was a guy named Kenny Washington and Woody Strode. They played together with the Rams. And then Bill Willis and Marion Motley played with the Browns. And he goes, I'm blown away. I did not know. So I go, I'll tell you what, I'll do you even one better. You played about 7 miles away in high school from where Kenny Washington and Woody Strode played in high school.
That's right.
So the connection with Keyshawn was just immediate, and we just embraced it together immediately, and he has been a great partner. Now, the story is fascinating. Just quickly, Black players were not in the NFL from 1934 through 1945. just not allowed. There was no written agreement or anything. There was basically a gentleman's agreement among the owners that this was going to be an all-white league. And in 1946, after World War II, when a lot of black soldiers helped the Americans beat Nazism and fascism, there was a big push to get the NFL integrated. As a hero sports writer, yay, in Los Angeles, named Hallie Harding, who really pushed for the Rams to sign at least one black player, and that was Kenny Washington. When the Rams moved from Cleveland to Los Angeles, they were playing in a public building, the Los Angeles Coliseum. So long story, they do sign Kenny Washington. Kenny Washington's best friend is Woody Strode. They sign Woody Strode. That same year in Cleveland, Paul Brown, who is the Branch Rickey of this story without, accepting the credit, but he brought in Marion Motley and Bill Willis to the Cleveland Browns of the All-America Football Conference, which was a dynasty of that time in that league and then in the NFL. And this is the first year of their playing professionally, and it chronicles their lives really from the time they were children all the way through the time they died. And these are four fascinating people that I have to tell you that the sports world knows very, very little about. So it's a story that we both feel passionate needs to be told. And this is the 75th anniversary season of that first year of integration in modern football.
Wow. And Bob, why is that? Because the NFL, National Football League, is now the most popular sport in America. It's been the most popular sport in America for the past 3 decades, basically. So Jackie Robinson is a household name. Why isn't Kenny Washington, Willie Strode, Bill Willis, and Marion Motley? Why aren't they household names in the NFL? Everyone is so visible.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I don't know that there's an easy answer for that. Perhaps it's because there were 4 men who played that first season. But I think part of it is that the NFL at that time was not the national pastime. It was baseball. And Robinson played in a bigger league. One other thing, by the way, Robinson was a football teammate and baseball teammate of Kenny Washington.
At UCLA. That's right.
At UCLA. So I don't know that the NFL has embraced this story because honestly, it's not a story of, they get no medals for integrating purposely. This came after a lot of pressure by that sports writer and others, Hallie Harding, who wrote for an influential black paper in Southern California. There was intense pressure to integrate the league. And the NFL did it eventually, but not really willingly. No, they didn't embrace it. Branch Rickey was a pioneer in that he pushed this. He was out there on the line, the general manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers, and he was taking that step to sign Jackie Robinson and willfully and knowingly knew what was going to happen and purposely did it. So you just don't have that same background to the story with the NFL. And I don't know. I think, listen, with what's going on now with the discussion of integration in this country that has happened for years, especially now, it's very intense. I don't know why they haven't embraced it more. And I think they should. It's a good story. I mean, the league did integrate and now is 70% African-American. And baseball, I think, is less than 10% of the league is black players. So the league should embrace it. It's a good story now, and it's always been a good story. And these 4 guys led exemplary lives, did it in difficult circumstances. We hear about Jackie Robinson, the prejudice that he faced. These guys faced it as well. Yeah, Bill Willis and Marion Motley had death threats against them the first time they were scheduled to play in Miami in 1946. And Paul Brown left them home. He paid their salary. He says, "We're not taking you." Well, why? Don't worry about it. We're just not going to do it. Well, Brown had received death threats, specific death threats against both players if they played in Miami, thus the state of Florida, which was part of the Deep South at that time, and did not allow black players to play against whites.
Yeah.
Jackie Robinson was prevented from playing in Jacksonville the year before in baseball. So there's a lot there. And these guys went through a lot. And I think their stories should be told and really need to be told. And Keyshawn feels the same way.
Here with NFL columnist for Newsday, Mr. Bob Glauber, on So Much to Talk About. He's also author, and he co-wrote a powerful book with Pro Bowler and Super Bowl champion Keyshawn Johnson, to be released on September 21st. And it's called The Forgotten First: Kenny Washington, Woody Strode, Marion Motley, Bill Willis, and the breaking of the NFL color barrier. So that's the history that Bob has shared is just amazing. And you all need to check this book out. 75th anniversary of Black players playing in the National Football League. And this is something that all of you need to know about. So now, Bob, we're going to go to vaccinations. And it's an issue that's not just going on within the National Football League, but within society, within this country. People are having problems with getting vaccinated, and there are NFL players that have not been vaccinated, and it's affecting the locker room and everything like that. So, Bob, talk about what is the issue with players, because this is a team sport. It's about teamwork. So what is the issue with players getting vaccinated to look out for their teammates? I mean, what's the problem?
Well, I think you could ask that question around the country and you'd find different answers. This is an issue that is affecting the entire country. It's a very divisive issue, and fortunately for the NFL, if you believe that the science indicates that vaccines do help prevent the spread, help reduce hospitalizations, help reduce death, the vast majority of NFL players are vaccinated. There are some high-profile players, specifically quarterbacks, who are not. Carson Wentz talked about it at length. He didn't go into why he's not vaccinated, but he said it's a personal issue.
Yeah, and Kirk Cousins too.
Kirk Cousins and Josh Allen. So you're talking about three prominent quarterbacks who are not vaccinated and run the risk of impacting their team's competitive ability on game day if they are not available, because the protocols and the prohibitions against unvaccinated players are very, very strict. So if you are a close contact, if you get the disease, you are out for much longer periods of time if you're not vaccinated than if you are vaccinated. So again, I would say over 90% of the players are vaccinated, which is extraordinary considering this country is not at that level. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 100% vaccinated, staff and players. But there are going to be issues with unvaccinated players. It seems to be a fact of life. Whether it, let me add a fourth quarterback, Lamar Jackson, is not vaccinated.
Yeah. And then Cam Newton, that got him cut. That was one of the factors that got him cut, basically.
Well, I mean, Cam Newton was not vaccinated, but Lamar Jackson in Baltimore is not vaccinated. Right. So there's four potential playoff quarterbacks not vaccinated, and Lamar Jackson got COVID last year and had to miss some time.
Right.
Yeah, this is an issue that is going to be, with the NFL all season. As long as this problem is going to exist in the world, it's going to impact the NFL in some level.
Wow. No, and the NFL, I think, do you think they're doing the right thing in saying that that teams will have to accept the forfeit if there are multiple players that test positive for COVID? Do you agree with the NFL stance on that?
I do. I do believe vaccines work, and this is something that the NFL Players Association agreed to in 2020. Not only 2021, in 2020, with no vaccines, they agreed that if enough players tested positive and could not be available, forfeits were an option. Now, it became much more clear and perhaps more of a lightning rod this year because you had vaccinations, you had the ability to keep transmission of the disease down through vaccination, and it's the same rule. You may forfeit a game if enough unvaccinated players, cause that much of a disruption that you can't go on. And they make much more accommodation for teams that have much higher vaccination rates in terms of trying to reschedule if necessary and get those games in than you do for teams with unvaccinated players who might cause an outbreak.
Oh, it's amazing. We're going to see how everything develops for sure. And not just with the NFL, but with this country, and especially with schools starting, and also offices are starting to open up as well, office buildings, everything like that. Wow. So here with the great Bob Glauber, NFL columnist for Newsday, and also author of the book that will be coming out on September 21st called, and I'm going to keep plugging this book because this is a story that needs to be told. It co-written with Keyshawn Johnson, called The Forgotten First. Kenny Washington, Woody Strode, Marion Motley, and Bill Willis, and the breaking of the NFL color barrier. He's here on So Much to Talk About. Now, Bob, the Jets. Yes. Now, locally, we'll talk about some local football for a second. So the Jets, Zach Wilson era starting, and he has made a good impression. And also first-year coach Robert Saleh being able to have his guy to start his career with his guy. The Jets have nowhere to go but up, for sure. Yeah. But they've had some injuries on the defensive front. So how much progress can we see from the Jets this season, and how much of an impact can Zach Wilson make in his rookie year?
Two very good questions that Jet fans, long-suffering Jet fans, want to know the answers to and are anxious to find out. I think the meter for the Jets is going up. It's pointing up in terms of a positive direction. They've got a good young quarterback. They've got a coach who I think is going to be really good. He's very well prepared for this moment in Robert Saleh. Zach Wilson did tremendous work in the preseason. The offensive line is good. The running backs, there are a bunch of them. It's going to be running back by committee. The receiving core has upgraded in the offseason. The defense, that the injuries you mentioned are a factor. Without Carl Lawson, who looked like he was just primed to have a really good season, it's going to be impactful in a negative way. And they have a lot of young corners. They have all first and second year corners, and that's going to be a problem, probably especially early in the year. But Robert Saleh wants to play his young players. He makes no bones about it. This is one of the youngest teams in the league. They're going to take some bumps. It's going to be a struggle this year. They're not going to the playoffs. But I think this is the way you build a franchise. And Joe Douglas, the general manager, and patient in his approach, trading players to get assets. The Jamal Adams trade was the perfect example. So it's going to take some time. And so the record's not going to be great this year, but I think that Jet fans can be confident that this thing is moving in the right direction.
And their pass rush, good depth with pass rushing, even though Lawson is not around. But Shaq Lawson joined the team. So, but the pass rushing depth, which Robert Saleh was excelled with with the San Francisco 49ers, that can really help those young corners, right?
It certainly can. Now, the question is, does the Lawson, the Carl Lawson injury impact them so negatively that it really creates a problem? Now, Shaq Lawson, he's been decent, but they traded a 6th round pick for him, so it's not like you're trading for Lawrence Taylor. Let's face it. But he is, he's a name player, and he potentially is an impact player. I think the defensive line depth in the middle is really good, but you need those edge rushers, and they're just so hard to come by. That's why they were so disappointed by the loss of Carl Lawson, and a non-contact injury at that.
Wow. And now talking about the New York Football Giants, and I see this team contending for a wild card spot. I don't see why, and plus in that division, they could possibly be able to win the NFC East in that division. I think it's wide open. Why isn't that the Giants are not getting enough praise, enough props from the personnel moves in the draft and free agency that they've made over the past couple of years? It's starting to come together for them.
I don't know. I don't know if I would,
Oh, really? Yeah.
They spent the money. Yeah. And let's see what happens. Kenny Golladay, the receiver from Detroit, has been injured in his career, was injured this training camp.
Yep.
Let's hope he stays on the field, see what he can do. Kadarius Toney, first-round pick out of Florida, injured most of training camp, was ill with COVID early on. Let's see what he can do. Now, Daniel Jones, it's a big year for him.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I'm worried about that offensive line. Andrew Thomas. Yeah,
He had a great
know if
last
he's
season.
good enough.
Don't
know if he's good enough. He better be good enough because your left tackle better be able to protect your franchise quarterback,
especially with fumble.
And does Saquon Barkley come back? If Saquon comes back, huge difference in terms of what Daniel Jones can do with the play action pass, having a 1,000-yard rusher, having a guy who can catch the ball out of the backfield. So a lot of unknowns. I think the defense is good. I think the defense is playoff quality. But I do think they probably have to win the division to contend. Wild card, maybe. It's not a deep conference. The NFC is stacked at the top, tippy top with just a few teams. And then it's kind of everybody else. And the Giants are in that everybody else category.
Right. And one player that I think who could really emerge, who I've been really impressed with, is Dexter Lawrence for the Giants. Like, he is so underrated. I think he's going to break out and really be someone. And with him and Leonard Williams together, goodness, they're going to.
All right, duly noted. We'll look back in December. Say, hey, Dexter Lawrence, you called it, or hey, what happened to Dexter Lawrence?
Yeah, right. Exactly. I've been. It's like, for me, it's like kind of like half right, half wrong at times. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah, you never know. Okay. It's like, but wow, here with the great Bob Glauber, NFL columnist for Newsday, and his book will be released. They co-wrote Keyshawn Johnson on September 21st, called "The Forgotten First," which is about the first, the color barrier being broken in the National Football League with 4 black players: Kenny Washington, Woody Strode, Marion Motley, and Bill Willis. Here, so much to talk about. Now, Bob, we're going to talk about.
I just wanted to say, Woody Strode is not really known. Those other 2 guys are Hall of Famers, Motley and Willis. And Washington was maybe the best player in college football in 1939. Yeah. Strode was an excellent player, an excellent receiver. In the movies, the Toy Story movie.
Yeah.
Woody Pride, Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
Named after Woody Strode.
I never knew that.
Who was an actor after his football career ended, played in a bunch of Westerns, and in Toy Story, it was a tribute to, I think the movie came out the year after he died. Made many, many movies, Westerns, played with John Wayne, played with Joe Namath in a Western. I got a hold of Joe Namath for this book. It was tremendous having Joe Namath talk about Woody Strode when they were making what's called a spaghetti Western in Italy back in the, I don't know.
60s probably, right? 60s,
like 70s, maybe 70s or 80s.
Okay.
Incredible. So.
Oh my God. And the spaghetti Westerns is what sparked the career of Clint Eastwood as well. So
there you go.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing.
And Woody Strode almost beat up John Wayne on the set of a movie.
I probably know why. John Wayne probably said something that was a little,
No, it wasn't. There was not. He was mad that Woody Strode had to kind of save him during a stunt, and he didn't take kindly to that. And Woody was just about to pummel him, and the director, John Ford, said, no, we need John. Don't do it.
Yep, exactly. I'm not surprised by that.
There.
Wow, that's a great piece of history right there. And that's why everyone, you need to make sure you purchase this book for sure. And now, Bob, nationally with the NFL, which rookie quarterback, we talked about Zach Wilson, which of the 5 rookie quarterbacks that were drafted in the first round will be the most successful based on their current situation?
That's a really good question. I think Justin Fields has a chance. Now, he's not going to start right away, but I think he will play soon enough. I think he's got a very good chance. And I would probably say Mac Jones, team-wise, because that's a veteran team that may be playoff ready, so that could help him record-wise. And I think Zach Wilson's going to be a terrific quarterback. Whether it happens this year, he's going to go through some bumps and bruises. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to have some issues, man.
Yeah,
he does not have a good offensive line. Travis Etienne is out for the year.
Yep.
That's going to be a long year for Trevor Lawrence and for Urban Meyer, and it's going to be interesting to see how they come out of that.
I think fantasy football wise, Trevor Lawrence would be great because they'll be playing from behind. So throw it.
Look at that. Yeah. Trevor Lawrence, great fantasy. They lost 42-14, but he threw for 350.
Right, exactly.
Way to go. Way to go.
3 touchdowns, but 3 picks, Excuse me, 2 touchdowns, but 3 picks.
All right.
You said 14. Yeah. But wow. So Bob wanted to which team can be a surprise team in each the AFC and NFC?
Oh, this one always gets me. Because it's just is Miami a surprise? Maybe not. They came close. I think they'll be a really good team. I think Tua's got a lot to show.
That's right.
A lot to prove, especially with all this Deshaun Watson talk that is apparently not going to happen in terms of a trade. NFC, I don't know that San Francisco is a surprise. They went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
That's
but this is a rebuilding type team, with Trey Lance now. Garoppolo, if he's he's a competitive guy, so I think he can fend off Trey Lance. They maybe get Lance in there on a few plays to get him some experience. So I'd put them in there. And the NFC is a little wonky this year, only because for the first time in a long time, there are not a lot of great teams to choose from. This is a very top heavy conference. You have Tampa, you have Green Bay, you have Seattle. The Rams, I think, will have a good year, but there's just not a lot below that in terms of capable of kind of making that run. Now, that's the beauty of the NFL, is that you get surprise teams, and you do get teams that get on runs that you don't expect. The Giants would be one of those teams. If they get on a run, I don't expect it, but if their free agent additions work, if Daniel Jones kind of gets it together, they may have a shot at that, surprise kind of team.
Wow, no,
but it would surprise me.
Yeah, right. Yes, indeed. Yeah, no doubt. And now, your prediction for the 2 teams that represent the AFC and the NFC each, one each, of course, in the Super Bowl 56.
I will take in the NFC. I'm going to ride that Aaron Rodgers emotional train all the way to Los Angeles. I'll buy it. I'll take it, because I think Rodgers is in a good space mentally. He's just kind of shaking off all this controversy, and he got well rested and rejuvenated, I think, in the offseason. Despite the controversy, I think he got his mind right. So I'll take the Green Bay Packers in the NFC, and I'll take it might be a boring choice, but I don't care, because I love Patrick Mahomes. I will take the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC, and I say Kansas City wins it all a second time in 3 years.
One last question for you, Bob. And before I let you go, I want to make sure to plug your book once again. I have to, because what an important story. Co-written with Keyshawn Johnson, Super Bowl champion. And it's going to be released September 21st on any digital platform or any bookstore. It's called The Forgotten First. Kenny Washington, Woody Strode, Marion Motley, Bill Willis, and the breaking of the NFL color barrier. Please, everybody, make sure to support this book for sure. And
one last one.
Yes, indeed. Wanted to have you show that. Before I let you go, who's the most engaging individual you've covered? Someone that you think about to this day where it's like, wow, I mean, I can never get a bad story, a boring story. Well, not, I don't know about bad, but I can never get a boring story when it comes to this individual.
Oh man, there have been so many over the years, but I will say the one guy who I have liked, even loved, admired, and found fascinating at so many levels is Harry Carson. The Hall of Fame linebacker for the Giants. I started, my first year was 1985. He was with the Giants. I talked to Harry all the time, see him all the time. Saw him out in Canton over the summer. He's just a remarkable guy. Thoughtful, great player, passionate, helps players that he played with and anyone who comes to him. I've never seen a guy help more players personally and quietly than Harry Carson. So I love that guy.
Wow, no doubt. And he was really the leader of that Giants defense. Everyone knew about, of course, LT, Lawrence Taylor, the greatest defensive player to ever live. But Harry Carson was the leader. He was there during those dark ages in the late 70s,
right.
and everything. And so, wow, no, Harry Carson is a very unique individual.
Retire that man's number 2. Not only Michael Strahan and Eli Manning. Retire Harry Carson, retire Rosie Brown, and retire Emlyn Tunnell.
Exactly.
Great players in Giants history.
Yes.
All in the Hall of Fame. Let's go. Let's get it done.
No doubt. And that's Bob's latest column as well. Make sure to check that out on Newsday. So, wow, Mr. Bob Glauber, it's been an honor to have you on my show finally. And I think finally to feature you. I've interviewed you a couple of times at training camps on location, but it's great to feature you on my show. And I appreciate your energy, your graciousness, and what you do for the sport of pro football. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Now, do I get to hear the trumpet or no?
Yes, you know what? I'm gonna send you my album. I'll send you my album for sure.
All right,
definitely.
Okay. You send me that, and I'll send you the book, and we'll call it a day.
Let's do that. Absolutely.
All right.
Well, thank you all for watching. So much to talk about. See you all next week. Make sure to check me out on YouTube as well as where they at on any podcast platform that you check out. Take care, everybody. God bless. Bye-bye.